Hi, everyone. My name is Chrissy Black, and I am here to tell you about a wonderful opportunity that we are trying to build here in with ATC. So, what we're trying to do is build a very all-inclusive community, online community for our K through 12 scholars. How we kind of came about this was I am a middle school teacher myself, and I kind of noticed a lot of my students were not able to express themselves and kind of had to hide who they were. There was a particular instance with one of my students. I saw them at one of our local shops here, and she didn't know that I was pagan, and I didn't obviously know that she was either. And she kind of had to keep things quiet about it, but she kind of got really excited when she knew that there was someone there that was similar to her. So we kind of started this out as trying to do a group for all pagans, but with the new political climate, we're also trying to make it for everybody. This is a growing community. This is a learning community who accepts all paths of life. So we're just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about our initial plans for the school and take any questions that you may have. So, our mission is to provide a place of learning where all students feel welcome and have a role in their education community. And our vision is to be a community of global responsible scholars. So, one of our biggest things is that everybody is a scholar, everybody is here to learn. Just because we're going to have roles of teachers, they're going to be more of lead scholars. We're all open to learning on how to build a better community. So, reasons why we want to have this school is to create a safe space for our children so they can feel included and not discriminated against. We want to strengthen the relationships within our community. And we want to have lessons that encourage exploration and engagement and have lessons that are not solely based on standardized testing. I think our society has been so focused on a test and not focused on the well-being of the child and seeing what they actually learn, because not everybody's a great test taker. So we want to see them grow in a better way of that. So what we will be doing here at the ATC school, right now we're still in the developments, but our overall goal is to have a virtual homeschool co-op structure, allowing students anywhere in the United States to have access to have access to education. We want to focus on our students to have engagement and be part of a community. And again, we're going to be following state standards through Washington because we do want to have our main base there. But we want our students to be able to have the freedom to express themselves however way they want to do it. So doing a homeschool co-op gives the flexibility for the parents and the children to be families again and learn not just within the structure of the school, but learn within their own community. So again, why online? Again, we're all over the place. ATC has a great network of people, and we want our children to be part of that community. So whether you live in Tennessee or Washington or Alabama or Michigan, wherever you may be, we want our children to be able to know that they are part of a really big community and that they can learn and help and grow with each other. And so, with having the online system, it's going to be very similar to if you know about the Wiccan Seminary. They have a great online community, and we want to be able to bring that into with our students. So, we are actually going to be having a curriculum. So, for us, one of the best things about having um, a homeschool kind of co-op and how we're kind of doing is that you're going to have a teacher. a teacher who are making lesson plans. We're doing guided instruction. We are doing the role of teacher. So a lot of times in homeschool co-ops, it's the parents have to develop the lesson plans and the curriculum and do all the research for this the children. And that can be a lot like really overwhelming. I mean, again, I know I do this every single day and it can get a little overwhelming, especially to fix lesson plans for each specific student and their needs, especially as a whole. So we will be using different types of curriculum. We will use IXL, Nearpod. We will also look at other resources that we will have too that's actually geared for the teacher for instruction. We want them to have all the core standards. So we're going to have math and language arts and science and social studies and foreign language. We want students to be focused on computer science and emotional learning as well, because just because we are online, we're going to have to know how to use a computer, but also how does that work in the real world? So we're going to follow the same thing that we would normally have in any traditional school. But for us, we want to focus on more of building that community and giving that to support to both parents and students. So going back into that, we're going to look at our schedule that we would typically have for a student. So we want our students to focus on basically being children. One of the biggest issues that I see as a teacher is that we're having our children come into the classroom, sit down, listen to a lesson. There's really no movement involved. It's just very structured. And by the time, halfway through the day, their brains are already mush. And we want them to not be mush. We want them to experience and still be children at the end of the day. So, how we kind of are looking at our 4-day week lesson is that we'll have Monday. So a typical student will have a Monday, we'll have around 2 to 3 lessons, okay? We only want to really span about 4 hours of actual instruction time, just because, again, your child only can handle 4 hours. Anybody can only handle 4 hours of new instruction a day. So we want to break it down to 4 hours, and during that time we will have it both morning and afternoon. So all our classes are going to be live and recorded. So if we have a student that may not do so well in the mornings, it's totally okay. Come into the afternoon, you're still going to be able to participate in class. You're going to have a live instructor there with you. You're going to have your classmates right there with you. Or let's just say y'all are going to go out of town that day and there's no way for you guys to get onto the instruction that day. It's okay. It's completely recorded. Or the other situation is what I run into with my students is that I record all my lessons, whether they're there or not. They can go back and review that lesson over and over and over again. And that helps the student and the parent to know exactly what we're teaching and how to get that child to master that standard that we're doing for that day or for that lesson. So ideal schedule would be a Monday would be reading and social studies, because we want to combine these together so it's easier for the student. And then again, we're having computer science. The other thing that we would do on Tuesdays, we'll focus on math and science, and then an elective. Wednesday go back to reading and social studies, and Thursday going back to math and science, so whatever that elective would be. I don't have Fridays listed, and that's important for us. I want Fridays to be open for teachers to work together to collaborate with each other to figure out, to help give us that support and that acknowledgement of like, hey, what's going on in your classroom? Is little Sally over here, are they doing okay? Do you need help with something? That way we can bounce back and forth, see what's working with the curriculum, what's not working, scratch out new ideas and bring in new ideas. Also there in that time, we will have one-on-one, tutoring available, or just helping the child on an individual basis, or checking in with mom and dad during that time. So we will have, appointments based on that on Friday. So Friday is kind of open for us having meetings for just not only for the teachers, but also meetings for parents and students. So if there's a child that's struggling a little bit over here in this one area, they may not got it the first 5 times. And that way we can go ahead and be like, okay, what is going on? They may not learn that way. And that way that gives us that one-on-one time to see what works for that one student and change that curriculum for them to help them master that standard for that. So that kind of gives us that freedom to like this time is dedicated for both students and parents. So again, going into a subject area, we will have about an hour of instruction per subject area. That also gives it like a traditional classroom kind of setting where the teacher is giving the lecture and students are able to work together, ask questions, and work in groups online for whatever that lesson is doing. And then we also give them an extra 30 minutes of group time per subject. So that way the students could talk to each other and seeing, hey, what's going on? And, just kind of be able to be part of the community and maybe help each other out. And we will do this for each lesson and each subject. Again, we're also having mornings and afternoon schedules. Again, some students are morning birds and they are like, let's go, let's get it done early in the morning. And some students are just not that way. So we want to make sure that we have a flexible schedule for learning for those students. So we know that cost is going to always be a factor. And we are trying to make things where it's affordable for all families. So when you look at the average price of private school tuition a year, you're paying roughly around $10,000. And that's more than I can even say that I'm paid for my own tuition um, at college level. So that's pretty expensive right there. And then homeschool, that ranges. You can pay anything for $1,800 a year to, depending on the curriculum. But again, you're also not even factoring the cost of time and effort that the parent has to put into that. So that's a lot going on right there. And then yes, public school actually costs the taxpayer money quite a lot, but on the average, the what the parent is paying, not including what you pay with your taxes, but on average around close to $700 a year on just average school fees. Clothing, books, technology, field trips, that gets really pricey. So we're trying to make it sure that every student has the opportunity to join our school. So the numbers are going to be slightly different because it's also going to be based on enrollment. Again, we want at the high end, it could be 6,500 for the 12 months. And we will break that down to around 541 per month, depending on the students. Again, and also depending on the grade level. So these are just rough estimates of what we're giving here. Higher in education, so middle school through high school, you're going to be kind of looking a little bit less, where you're going to be looking at around 4,500 a year, which is around 375 per month. Again, the reason why it's a little bit more higher for elementary is because elementary is one of those it's the foundation of our education. That's the building blocks. And so we may have a child who works really well with handwriting, and then we may have that same child in another class that may not be doing so well with handwriting. And me and the parents were like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And we will do the research, the school, and figure out, hey, we found this really cool system that seems to work really well with handwriting. Let us go ahead and buy that and send that to the student and help them get them where they need to be. So that's why it's going to cost a little bit more, because each child learns differently and they may need something different. So that way the parents doesn't have to go back and like, oh my goodness, I just spent this much money. I need to go out and buy something else for this curriculum. You don't have to worry about that. If your child needs something extra, we're able to go ahead and get that for the child. We also want to actually have opportunities to where the children and families are able to meet on a regular basis. So if we're having a festival at a local area, we want all our students to be able to come and spend time and do fun things with each other and build on that community structure. So everything would be kind of included into that cost. So again, these are just kind of rough estimate numbers, just because again, it also based on enrollment of students. So the more students we get, the lower the cost things will be. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and take any questions that anybody may have right now. Does um, does anybody may have any questions about where we're kind of going with the school? I'm going to look over here in this other screen. So the other thing with this is, I know from my experience as a teacher, I spent a lot of money on my students. Um, And what I usually do is I pay for it out of my own pocket. The other part of the tuition is if I see something for a student, I can go to the school and request that need for that child. We want to have this school to be open to all types of learning. Not everybody learns the same way. We understand that. We looked at, if you look at traditional education, the reason why it seems to not be working is that everybody tries to put everybody in a box. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work in instruction. It doesn't work for the student. It doesn't work for anybody. And they're not mastering standards. And I say that because when I say mastery standards, there's certain things that students are going to need to know how to do. They're going to need to know how to read and write, and in this time of age, how to use technology. And we want to make sure that students are able to master that. We want our students to be leaders of the community. We need doctors, we need lawyers, we need teachers, we need people who work in construction. We need our students to grow up to be functioning members of society. And so when they go through the school, we're main focused on academics. So that's why we're not just one pathway of paganism. We are open to everybody. We're also, with now the new political climate that's going on, is a little bit fearful about sending our kids to regular public school. Reason why I became a public school teacher was because I loved how everyone was supposed to come together and learn about each other and learn how to grow with one another and be all inclusive. We're seeing now in our public schools that that's not the case. It's becoming more of a, if you don't agree with us, then we're not going to have you, we're going to make things difficult. That makes it really hard for the teacher and the student to feel like they have a safe place to be able to learn about how the world works, just basic math and reading and science. So this started out as a focus on pagan children and pagan community, but it's also a focus on now anybody who's part of the pagan community and LGBTQ plus community, because now with the new laws being presented, it's going to make it very difficult for students part of that community to go to school and to feel safe. With online education, they're in the comfort of their home or wherever they need to be. They're going to be able to have a bigger community online. Um, they're going to be able to have friends wherever they are and have that support system. No matter what is going on in the outside world, within our school, they're going to feel safe and they're going to feel included and they're going to feel accepted. And that's going to be my main focus with the online school. We are hoping with the online school that opens more opportunities to have a brick and mortar school and where we can expand on not just our community, but also learn and be part of rebuilding the earth, um, teaching children about how about earth science and how every single action has a chain reaction with the ecosystem. So we want them to be focused on earth science and basically the sciences and how everything is connected. So, and we want to have those opportunities, but we do know that we have to start somewhere. And right now we're starting with the online school, and I fully believe this is the most important thing that we could do. Um, just kind of see if there's any more questions. So, but yeah, that's what we're trying to do is build a online community to where everybody feels supported and accepted. We also know that online can be very scary. That kind of taught us a little bit about with COVID, when everybody started going home and may not knew how to use technology. With that being said, we will have training for not only for our educators and our students on how to use our technology, but more importantly, our parents. We want our parents to be fully involved in our community. We know that it may be a little bit tricky to get on a online platform, but we want to also provide that training. So, need be, if there's a whole bunch of parents who are in the area, me personally, will go down there to make sure everybody is trained to know how to do it because that was our biggest struggle in public school education is that nobody knew how to use technology. Especially on an online platform, is you're not using it a lot. It gets a little scary, but we want it to be a very smooth and easy transition for everybody to do an online school. We are now noticing, especially with after COVID, how business world, how the workforce has actually changed into being a online community and online workforce. And so we want our students to also be prepared for that. We want them when they leave our school, they are prepared to take whatever pathway they want to do, whether they go to college, where they go to a vocational school, where they become a apprentice under somebody, whatever they want to do, we want them to be right there into the work, be able to be part of society and be part of the everyday community. And so be by starting them out since we're on online community, that helps them on so many different levels, not only in learning about their own community, in the pagan world or the world around them, but also it gives them an opportunity to know what's going on everywhere else. So I've been part of an online community for some years now, doing schooling, and it has brought so many opportunities and open doors. And so, and doing that same knowledge with my current students in computer science, that has opened a bunch of different ways of understanding just the world around them. Some of our lessons that we have done prior is I have students come to me and like, I do not know how to use this math problem. I don't get it. And having technology opens a great door. So if I have a student, that may not understand a certain math problem, well, there's about 5 billion different ways to solve that one math problem. And so being online, we can show them different steps and different ways to how to do that one math problem. And also another student may say, hey, I have an easier way to do that. And they can show each other. Um, because what we want them to know is that there's different ways to learn, and we're okay with that. And so having that online platform and showing them, hey, this is a tool, this is the way that we communicate with each other, and this is the way that we learn brings other opportunities. Also, having an online school gives the freedom for families to be families. They can go out, they can travel, they don't have to be stationary. They can do whatever they need to do during that time and having the flexibility, especially if if they're having online classes in the morning. Then they have that whole afternoon to go out and explore in their community. We want them to, if we're learning something in um, science about astronomy, we want them to go out later that night and go look up at the stars and look and see what planets are online right now. And so we want families to be able to have that opportunity where they may not be able to have that chance in a traditional classroom setting, especially if they're on traveling. If I have a student that's traveling during during school hours, and they're able to, hop on in, they can share that experience. Like, hey, my family went on vacation and we decided to go to the Grand Canyon. We can totally readapt that lesson for that day for the child to go ahead and talk about their experience and what they're seeing, and also put in that lesson of maybe something that we learned in science or something that we are learning in language arts. Or we want basically to give students the freedom to be charged of their education. Some of the things that we're also going to be working on is project-based learning. So that's kind of where we go back into where with our schedule, while we will have reading and social studies like kind of put together, we want project-based learning. So if we're learning about, hypothetically, the Holocaust, we're going to learn everything about the Holocaust. We're going to learn about the science of like what they were doing in science during that time, what because of what was going on, how did the climate change with that. We're going to integrate math. How was math involved? We're going to look at reading. We're going to look at social studies. We're going to put it all together so that way it's a cohesive learning environment for the student, and they can be able to relate and be able to learn, not just memorize what was the actual events happening there in that time. So we want to really focus on project-based learning in different subject areas. Right now, I'm working on a project-based learning with my students, where even though I'm computer science, we are looking in science and building hydroponic systems into the classroom and building that. And then we're using computer science and doing research and building a proposal for our own schools. So I'm going to answer this question about seeing many religious style, mainly Christian curriculum for our home studies. Is a curriculum you're working on religious at all? We are not focused on the religion aspect in our school. We will have opportunities to be part of Spiral Scouts, and as the kids go older, have different electives if they so choose to go that pathway, whatever pathway they want to do. But for us in the academics, we are not focused on any particular um, pathway of religion. We we are a melting pot of religion, but we want to have the children to have the ability to talk openly about their religious experience. Their family may be Wiccan, their parents may be following Norse, their parents may be following whatever, they may not following anything at all. We want them to have that experience to know that they're not alone, but they're able to talk about their experience. So if we're off for a holiday, because we will be observing major Sabbaths, when we're off during that time and they come back and they'll say, hey, my family, we did this for you and that, and blah, 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 blah. We want them to have that ability to talk about that. Because in traditional schools, you're not allowed to talk about, unfortunately, you're not allowed to talk about your experience and how you celebrate your holidays unless you're predominantly Christian. So we want it to be a um, open for all pathways, not just any one set. So I hope that answers your question. That in the instruction side, we are not focused on any certain religion or any certain pathway. We are open to all. We're just focusing on the academics. Let's see. Is there any other questions? I hope I'm not missing anybody. But like I said, we are mostly focused on having children, our students, our scholars, instructions around 4 hours. That also gives them time to focus on something else. So they're going to be focused on academics, but that also gives the leeway for the parents. But if they choose to like m- continue on, like let's say they're having a really good day and they just like, I I want to get this whole thing done. I have some students who are just like, whatever's on the table, they want to get it done, get it done, get it done. They can go ahead and get all these other lessons done. It's on their own pace. Um, but we will have scheduled curriculum. But if they still choose to move on, they can move on. If they said, hey, I'm only going to do homework from or schoolwork during this time and these times that are allowed, perfect. That's fine. We want to give families and students the freedom to have flexibility in their lives. I know, at least for me, as viewing as a teacher, a lot of my students, they they're busy. They go to school, they're at school around 8 o'clock. They don't leave until about 5 or 6. If they're lucky, if they're not in, if they're don't have anything extra after that, because some of them are in sports or they're in theater or whatever they are in. And then they don't get home to around 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And then they're doing, um, uh, then they're doing homework so late, and we don't really want that. We want them to have, the ability. And I see that Steven is specialized in developing math, and that's perfect. Yes, I need to talk to you. We want everybody to be part of this community, and especially teachers. For teachers, we definitely want them to, have, a livable wage with us, and we also want them to be able to, um, if they need resources, we want to be able to provide it. I know for me as an educator, I just on my basic classroom needs, I spent over $5,000 at the beginning of the school year, and that was just basic needs. Uh, and we want to be able to not put that kind of stress level on the educator. So, like for me, one of the biggest things that I had to provide was seating. I didn't have enough seating for my students. We don't want that to ever be an issue with any of our teachers. So, that's why with our tuition, we are having the ability not only for the parents to request things, but also the teacher to request things for their needs. I know for me, on average, I spend anywhere from $300 to $500 every month on just basic classroom needs for my students. I don't ask for anybody to help or anything like that. Um, it's just if these are needs that I feel that will benefit my students, I'm going to go out and get that. But I've been very blessed to have a great support system at home to be able to provide that. Not all the teachers do. So we want to make sure that teachers have the ability to request things out of the school budget for their academic needs for their children. So I love that you're here to help with you're specialized in developmental math. That's super, super important for our school. So I appreciate that you mentioning that. Is there any other questions? I know I've probably been rambling just a little bit. I'm just super excited about the school and the opportunities that we have and what we're trying to do with the students. Like I said, um, we're trying to make this as affordable for everybody, because we understand that it can be a little education can be a little bit expensive. And so we're trying to make it as affordable for everybody, but also make sure that everybody has everybody's needs being met. Again, this is for everybody to be part of our community. It's not just a certain pathway. We accept all walks of life because we want this to be a safe environment. Again, we understand right now with the political climate with our current school situations and the public school situations, it is not as friendly as it has been in years past. There are, if you are worrying about money, about how you can pay for tuition and stuff like that, um, there are certain states that are giving out stipends for homeschooling or private school. You have to look within your own state to figure out what's going on with that. I will try to, at the next interest meeting, try to provide a little bit more information about what states are doing those stipends for education. A lot of times you can either, they will give you a check up front if you show them a approved curriculum, also with a accredited teacher. So our teacher also are going to be, a, we're going to have our license and be a accredited teachers and stuff like that. So we will have that opportunity once we show all that. So if you need the paperwork to say that, hey, are you a teacher? Yes, we are a teacher. These are our licenses. If you need someone to do that, we're able to do that for you under this umbrella with the homeschool co-op. Sorry, I missed that one. Um, missed that one comment, so sorry. Awesome. Yes. That's perfect, Stephen. Thank you so very much. Yes, definitely need to talk to you. um, so yes, we are sorry, going back onto that track. So with certain states, they are giving those stipends. They are either doing it as a giving you a check, and if you show that to the school what's going on with the curriculum, and that what's the pathway for that child. So in lesson plans and all that good stuff that normally parents will have to go ahead and provide that up front. We will have that for you guys, so you guys don't have to worry about that. Um, and also, sometimes they will also at tax season, whatever money that you would normally put into that school because of your child, that money goes with that child. So sometimes you'll get it at tax refund time. It all depends on your state and the situation. I will be more than happy to help look for those roles for that. So we understand that not everybody is going to be able, we want to make things affordable for everybody and make it all inclusive for everybody. Because right now to me, it's not oh, this is a nice little thing that we're thinking. No, this is a need for our community, especially a need for our political climate. Like I said, I know as a public school teacher, it's very scary for me as an educator. And I'm starting to see that ripple effect with my students. And so, um, especially if you're living in a very southern state, uh, we want there's a reason why we are making this national. So any child can be part of this group and be able to feel safe in their learning environment. So I'm just kind of clicking over here. And just like I said, we're going to the whole reason and purpose that we want to create the school is to create a safe place for children, to have them feel included and not discriminated against for any path of walk of life. We want it to be a safe place. We want to strengthen relationships with our community. Again, our world is so big. There's so many of us, and sometimes you don't feel like that if you're in a very small like town and you don't really have your community there. So we want to let other students know that, hey, you're part of a bigger group, and we're all here to take care of you and support you in your dynamic and all your endeavors. Um, we also want to encourage parents and families to get together and, be part of this homeschool co-op and be able to get together and have experiences with their children and a safe learning environment. We want to have lessons that encourage exploration and engagement. We want them to be curious. We want them to ask the question why. One of the things I like to do as a teacher is uh, I tell my students at the very first, I And the lead scholar, I do not pretend to know everything. I want you to help learn the answers. I think that's very important. So many times in education, we worry about the student memorizing answers and they're not really getting a chance to question. And so we want them to learn to ask the question why and learn how to find the answers and build that type of community of why is and how can we find a solution. We want critical thinking. We want problem solving. We encourage that. And we encourage them to be engaged in the lessons and engaged in their community and engage in what their interests are and build on that. And we don't want to focus on standardized testing at all. We will have, oh, I call benchmark testing just to see where the student is on a certain level and help gear them to where they need to be, but we don't want to put that pressure on the students. We will have traditional grading for a transcript. So when they leave and go on to other things like college or a trade school or wherever they may need a traditional transcript, we will have that. But we want them to focus on basically a um, five standard, basically. So number 5 is well, we'll start at 3. Number 3, they met the standard. Awesome, great, you got it. Perfect. That's a really, really, really good thing. Number 4, hey, you went a little bit above and beyond and went a little extra on the project. Good job. Like you did amazing. And 5, oh my goodness, you not only did the PowerPoint, but you did a whole model and went above and beyond what you did. Oh my goodness. I did 5. Perfect. But then so let the students know that hey, it's okay. If they make it 2, you know what? You were almost there. That you know what? We just need to go back and tweak this a little bit and make sure that you got it, and then you go back and return it in and get that whatever score you want. And they're making a 1. Okay, there's something going on. They're not getting it. I need, as a teacher, to go back to make sure they're getting it. So they didn't get it this time. We tried this time. That didn't work. Let's do something completely different. Did they get it? Perfect. We want students to not be focused on the letter grade, but be focused on, hey, do I understand this? And can I be able to help my buddy out over here to understand it? We want lots of group learning because I know I learn best when someone else is right there in my group and learning it with me. So I'm glad you asked a question with children with special needs. So we want in the future to be able to open for all students, especially those with special needs. But right now, um, you have to go through special training for special needs. So that's going to be on a parent by parent basis. How much work do you want to work with us? um, for your child's education curriculum. If you're willing to put in the work with me, I'm willing to put in the work with you. But we are not trained right now. I do not have my certification in special education. That's something I am building onto that. If we have somebody who is um, part of our community and who's a teacher who wants to be part of our community and teaches special education, then yes, we will have that opportunity. Right now, it's all based on what are the needs of your child and are they going to be able to fit and adapt into online learning. So it actually goes on a base by base basis. So if you're willing to put in the work with your child, I'm willing to put in the work with your child, and we can go on from there. So like I said, everybody learns differently. So I hope that answers your question. Like I said, special education gets a little tricky and depends on different needs of education. So if they're we are not certified right now for special education, but again, like I said, each child learns differently. So they may be part of special education for something over here. We could try to fix that. Maury, how's you? Yes. Okay. Yes. We can always adjust the curriculum to fit the needs of the child. Um, that, like I said, that goes more into what work do you want to put in. So, like I said, as long as we're mastering the standards, so like I said, we are how education works, especially so federal says everybody needs to learn how to do X, Y, and Z. And they give those to the states. And the state says, hey, we're going to break away these what X, Y, and Z's are, and we're going to put it over here to what we want our state children to know how those needs. So since our main affiliate is in Washington, we're going to be working on Washington state standards. And so what how that kind of works, they give us a broad term on like we need all students to know about the Revolutionary War. Okay. We can make sure that all students know how to learn about the Revolutionary War. So we will break that down and fit the needs for our curriculum. And like for me as a teacher, everybody learns differently. So I may have a student that learned about the Revolutionary War. He can read a book and boom, got it. I may have to do a whole play for another student over here for them to understand it. That's kind of how education kind of works with how we're going to do it. So we will have a guideline and we will teach the lesson if that's where those like one-on-one times come in on Fridays. So if the child's not getting on that lesson, then me and mom and dad and the child need to work together and just make sure that they get those needs. So I hope I answered that question. So you kind of understand what's going on, how we're going to do the dynamics. So we will have a guided lesson and everything's going to be recorded. Um, and then if the child needs extra time, we're going to have those times available for that child. They will have to do it by a appointment needs basis. So they, if we have a time open, go ahead and get on there. If you see, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's not going to work. Message your teacher. We will make that work for you, and we will figure out a best pathway for your child for make that needs of the curriculum. So we can make adjustments. We just need to know what's going on. So I hope that helps. Anybody else have any more questions? These are great questions. I really like these. So, like I said, going back to that one question about the curriculum, like we will do, so our first thing will be like with IXLs, that kind of helps the teacher and the student kind of do a guided learning instruction. So, like I said, we may have a student that goes, oh my goodness, I got this. Let me just go ahead and knock them out. That's perfect. If this just kind of helps us know where the child is, the student is in their education and kind of build from there and with these lessons. But like I said, we are going to be doing a lot of project-based lessons and a lot of instruction that way. So like I said, if we're having a student where that's why we're having the 4-hour time spans for a child. We don't want to overwhelm them and get them so overwhelmed with education because there already are. Like when my students are in class, by the time my last period comes into class, they are done with the day. It's 3 o'clock. They're tired. Their brain is mush. We don't want that. We want them to be able to, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on. This is how I'm going to get things done. And then if they need extra time, we can help them with that. The other thing that we will be doing too is we will have due dates. So for example, how I do assignments with my students is if I give them an assignment on Monday, that's not due to the following Monday. Very similar how the real world works, and if you're in higher education, we have due dates. I find that I get the most work and the most productivity and the most turn-ins by setting a due date like that a week in advance, a week ahead of time. Because I know that people get busy. I get busy, and some people want to get that assignment get done right away. And some people are like, I get busy. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to do it until right at the time. That's fine if you work that way. If you work all the way up to the very last minute, that's okay. Some people work better that way. but we want to give them the opportunity to where they can focus on, the lessons during the time span of that 4 hours while they're with us, and then be able to go out and be part of their family and be part of the community. We want them to go out and do extracurriculums within their community. We want them to have family time. We want them to be focused on being a kid. There's so many times that I think we kind of forget that kids are kids, and being in a building for 8 hours a day plus is a little overwhelming. And we wonder why we have behavior issues and stress level and anxiety with our students. It's because we're telling them to sit in a classroom all day long and not get up and not stretch or anything like that. And so we want to create a schedule that's accommodating for everyone. So, does anybody have any other questions? I know we're getting closer to time, so I want to make sure that we answer any other questions. And if you can't think of any right now, you can always reach me over at Christine Black at ATC Wicca.org. You will see my address kind of fly up over here. Just reach out to me and I can be able to answer any questions. We will be also resending out interest forms through social media again. So just be on the lookout for that because we want to hear from you. Like I said, it's a community based school. So we're really interested in hearing from you and what kind of things that you're looking at for a school. Like I said, it's a community based, and we know that it's not just one person, it's everybody, and we want that everybody to feel and have autonomy into their child's education. That's the biggest thing that I see as an educator, is that parents feel like they can't be part of their child's education. And I think it's really, really sad. I want parents to talk to me and call me and say, "Hey, what's going on?" And I try to do as much as I can as an educator. So that's why we want to build it to where everybody's included. You hear the saying, it takes a village to raise a child, and it really much does. And we want our village to be very big for our students and for our families. We want the families to have that community and set up. So right now, with virtual online, that we can make things possible, and also be able to bring people from the community on a online platform. So let's say we are on a Thursday, we're talking about something about in one of our instructions, and there is a children's author who wrote a book about that. Maybe we could get that children's author and to talk about it. Or if there's somebody who's part of community that is doing what the students are learning about, we bring that member of the community so they can share their experience about that. Um, like I said, we want all our lessons also to be recorded. That way, for one, the student can go back and reread the lessons, but more importantly, the parents can go back and review the lessons to see, what we're teaching and how we're teaching it. And so on Fridays when he had those meetings, like, "Hey, Miss Black, I saw this going on and I'm a little bit confused. I can either better explain it, or we could try it again, go back to fixing the curriculum or fixing the lesson to fix your child's needs." They may not understand that reference, or may understand how we did that math question. We can go back and show them how to do that. So, again, we want to be very open and community based. So, and like I said, our tuition right now, it's really kind of based on the numbers of students that we get. So, the more students we get, the cheaper the cost. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make this an affordable tuition and also find ways for all families to be part of our education. So if we had to look, work together to see what states are providing for homeschool education, we want to be able to do that. So like I said, I'm just kind of clicking through here, and so people can kind of see an outline of what we're doing. Like I said, we will have like a morning and afternoon instruction per subject. That way, again, they can focus on those um, 4 hours on instruction and then go on to do other things. Or if they need extra help, they can be part of group time every at least 30 minutes per subject area so they can communicate with their friends and work together on a project, or just be part of a class, you know. Um, that's one of the good things about online learning. I have friends from all over the place, and being able to speak to them and work on lessons together and learning how to do that and be able to share our screens and work. I have had many great opportunities to do it. And so we want to make sure that our students have the same opportunities like I have. Also, again, parents, we want to make sure that you're completely involved with everything. We want to make sure that you know how to use the technology, because we know technology issues happens, especially right now with Mercury being retrograde. We want to be able to help with that kind of situation. So just go ahead and teach you what your students are going to be learning and how they're going to be learning through technologies. Um, give you those training tools. So if something happens like, mom, I know I turned it in, we can make sure that everybody knows how the steps of turning things in. Um, our main thing will be through Microsoft Teams. So I use Teams all the time with my students. It's a very easy platform. And if you're familiar with Microsoft Teams for education, that's what we're going to be using. So that way we can show videos, we can do time like share screens, we can do the whole academics. So does anybody have any other questions? Like I said, I'm just kind of showing you the average cost of things. Like I said, private school gets really expensive, and that's why we're trying to make things that are at least half the cost of that. We don't really want parents to go um, broke on their child's education, but we do want to make sure that all your students have their needs met. And all the teachers have their needs met. So that's one thing that we're really working on. And like I said, these are just rough numbers of what we're doing. But like I said, we're just trying to make sure that all the students have exactly what they need. But I thank all those who are watching, and if you have any questions, and please free to either put them in the chat, or feel free to go ahead and email me, and we will also be sending out more forms. So please be on the lookout for that. We want to hear your thoughts and your opinions on what's going on and how we can fit those needs for your family. So I thank you so very much for giving us this time and be able to talk about this school that we are passionately building to fit the needs of our community. So thank you so very much. So, like I said, I'm just going to put up our mission statement again. We want this to be a place of learning and feel welcome for all students. So it doesn't matter what pathway in life they are in, we want them to be part of our community. We want to learn from each other because that's the best way for us to grow. So we want to build a community of globally responsible scholars. So that means that we want them to all be part of it. So thank you so very much. And I'll be reaching out to you, Stephen. So thank you so very much for watching, everybody. Thank you so very much for joining our interest meeting. And again, if you have any questions, please email me, and we will be sending out those interest forms in the next couple days to just kind of see what your thoughts. So thank you so very much. Please, 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 please respond to those interest forms. Thank you so